At this time, it's my real pleasure to introduce our next speaker, somebody that you don't need an introduction. We all know him. He's done a great job serving as governor and now in the United States Senate, Senator Mike Johanns.
Hey, thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. That's great. Nice warm welcome. Actually, what I'm going to do to start out, if I could use a little speaker's privilege and introduce my driver today, of all things, who happens to be my wife, Stephanie. So, Stephanie, come on over. People say to us, gosh, you've done these things and your life must be so different. It's really not different at all. Steph is still driving and we're going to events like this. Let me say to all of you, I look out across this crowd, thank you so very much for being involved. I can't tell you how good it makes me feel to see citizens engaged in the process of sending this country in a different direction than where it is at today. Just a few days ago, I was on the floor of the Senate, and I was asked to speak about the balanced budget amendment, and I'm one of the co-sponsors of that. And I pointed out on the Senate floor that when I was governor of the state of Nebraska, there was three things that I could always guarantee the citizens at the start of a legislative session. The first thing was that we would get a budget. The second thing was that it would be in balance. And the third thing was that we would not borrow money to accomplish the first two things. Now, when I went to join the cabinet with President Bush, I did not have to turn to Dave Heineman and say to him, I'm sorry about all that debt I took on for our state to balance the budget. Because you know, ladies and gentlemen, there is no debt. We Nebraskans figured this out decades and decades ago. Those who sat down to write our Constitution looked to the future and said, you know, there will be a day where our state government will promise everything, borrow, and get our state in financial trouble. And so they said, not only are we going to require that each budget be balanced, but we are also going to mandate, direct, that money cannot be borrowed to do that. Now, ladies and gentlemen, let me compare that with the state of affairs in this administration and in this current Senate that the majority party, the Democrats, are still running. We are now at about 795 days with no budget whatsoever. Now, I'm not even talking about a balanced budget. I am telling you that we have now gone over 2 years and we have been operating the federal government with no budget whatsoever. The second thing I will tell you is that last year, there wasn't even a budget resolution brought to the floor of the Senate. Now, the majority party is responsible for that. That's the way it works. And yet, I will say to you that they did not even bring a budget resolution to the floor. Now, this year in February, the President of the United States, Barack Obama, released a budget proposal. And it was shipped over to Capitol Hill soon after his State of the Union address. And we thought that there was no credibility to the proposal whatsoever. So we said, let's vote on it. Let's bring this to the floor and see who's for this. Because it runs up this year $1.6 trillion worth of debt. And so it came to the Senate floor, and not a single member, Not a single member of the United States Senate voted for that budget proposal. No Democrat voted for it. No Republican voted for it. No liberal voted for it. No conservative voted for it. Now, folks, if I were your governor and I brought a budget proposal to the floor of the unicameral that nobody supported and not a single senator voted for it, wouldn't you have been saying to yourself, I think it's time for a new governor? Well, I ask that question of you. Isn't it time for change in this country? I know you well enough that I believe like you do. Do you think we should continue to run annual deficits of over $1 trillion year after year? Absolutely not, because you know what? We know where that's going to end up. That's going to end up on the backs of our children and our grandchildren. Now, I want to leave you with a hopeful message. I look at these deficits, I look at who's in the White House, I look at who's still in control of the Senate, and I want to leave you with a hopeful message. All across this great nation, people are organizing just like you. And there's a common message from state to state. And that common message is something I said at this event about a year ago. The message is, we want our country back. Now, I ask you to stay engaged. I ask you to do all you can to elect people who respect the Constitution. I ask you to elect people who tell you that they are absolutely committed to a balanced budget amendment, an amendment to our Constitution, because that's the only way it's going to work. The only way we're going to solve this problem is to put in place the discipline like we did in our state that says we are not going to spend more than what is coming in revenues. And it's as simple as that. We need to balance our budget every year and get on that process. If we head in a direction of returning fiscal sanity to this country, if we head in a direction of respecting our Constitution, then I promise you that your efforts won't be in vain. So please do all you can to get behind those people who believe in the principles of limited government, less government, lower taxes, protecting our liberties, and making sure that we're balancing our budget. That will send this country in a course to bring it back, this great United States. Thank you for having me here today. God bless you all.
Thank you very much, Senator Johanns. We really appreciate you taking time today to come visit us.